bringing the people behind our food to life.
I got into doing seed art because on a dare, I entered the Minnesota State Fair. I was at a barbecue with a bunch of artists and everybody said, let's enter the state fair. And they all entered the juried art show. And I for some reason thought, well, I'll just do seed art, which isn't juried. They have a competition and it started in the early 60s and the idea was to promote seeds and crops of Minnesota. So you have to use Minnesota crop seeds. People from all over the state come to see it. And when I entered in the late 80s, they tended to have pictures of kind of schlocky people like Elvis and Nixon and Billy Graham. So I decided I wanted to do icons of people I liked or thought were interesting or were kind of in opposition to the mainstream people that were there. And so I did Haile Selassie and Malcolm X and Frida Kahlo. At first it was just a joke, and then it started getting some press and like, what is Malcolm X doing at the state fair? And then my friends were like, well, what are you doing next year? Oh wait, here's some good ones. Originally, I was limited to Minnesota crop seeds, but I was always interested in the wild seeds. So I would just walk around and collect things. These are ash seeds. I like to collect some of these, especially this time of year while they're dry, because even the broken ones they can use. But as soon as it starts to rain, then they just turn to mush and you can't really use them. So a lot of times people say, how long does it take you? And it would be impossible for me to tell because usually I'll work on several pieces. But the first step would be going to the lumberyard and buying huge sheets of masonite. Then I would usually cut out the shapes. Well, actually I should backstep that I probably would draw it first. A lot of times people get caught up in the you know, oh, you do art with seeds, where the real work of it is in the drawing. And I didn't come from like a big art background or, you know, had no classes in portraiture or anything. So I really white-knuckled it, and I still do. If I can get the drawing to look right and to look like the person, then I know that the seed part will come. There's a lot of motion and texture going on with the seeds, and sometimes you just can't predict how it'll come out. And I'll step back and work close and kind of go back and forth, and there's a kind of zone that you get into, and it's kind of like you're in this place, and that's where I think really interesting things happen, because often that's where you kind of push it and you're just like, this isn't right, grab this, put this on, try this, you know, and it comes together, and later you can't quite say how you did it. It's like a little warbler. I think it's something it's not permanent, and that's built into, like, people are always like, wow, can't you preserve it? Can't you make all the colors stay the same? And it's like, no, they're seeds. That's what happens, you know. So green seeds turn brown, and I suppose you could encase it in plastic, you know, in some toxic resin, and maybe it would stay the same, but you know, heat and light and age are all going to change things. So I mean, it's actually happening to us, right? You know, I think that that's maybe the bigger fear, is that, like, you know, we wish we could keep everything the same and always be secure, but it's not really possible. And also, I think art has to incorporate the flaws too. It's like, it's not about perfection. I heard some writers say that style is how you figure out how to do what you can't. You know, like if you can't draw hands, the way you work out drawing hands is ultimately part of what your style is. So when you're really doing art, it's never like, okay, now I can coast. It's always like coming up against that, like, how am I gonna do this? Can I do it? Will it work out? And that's actually the art, not the end product, but that growth.